Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and you have found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law too. Yeah, maybe taxes and operational law, all that kind of stuff that has to do with keeping your business spinning. Of course, if you run a business in these days, you're probably spinning already. Ain't it the truth? Anyway, so all you have to do if you have a question, comment, or concern is give us a call, 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. Of course, I'm not expecting anybody to be out there since today is the first day of spring forward daylight savings time. Thanks for nothing. And it's actually an hour earlier than everybody expected. However, that doesn't let me off the hook, does it? No, it does not. We must comply. It is the law. Daylight savings time, I guess. Anyway, 616-774-2424. That's the number to call if you'd like to get your question, comment, or concern on the air. What are we thinking about? What are we worried about these days, huh? What's the hot topic? And for me, I've been at this for a while, 33 years, since 1990. And, the question is, what do we, how do we reach out? How do we, we're doing fine. Don't worry about us. But here's the problem. Faithful listeners know that the point of the planning that we do is not so much to pass things on. I mean, it's not our top priority when we talk about estate planning, right? The top priority is not, how do I get the leftover stuff to the kids? That's not the top priority, because it assumes that there will be leftover stuff to get to the kids or beneficiaries. I say kids a lot, and there are folks who are like, "Ooh, that doesn't include me. I don't have any kids." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but." And I'm sorry for being insensitive, but that's kind of my birthright, I guess, being insensitive. Anyway, so maybe I'm being insensitive, but the point is that everybody has beneficiaries. And people have kids, they don't like them all, and they play favorites and all that. Okay, so maybe maybe it's not just a matter of giving it all to the kids equally. Some people do that, of course, but not everybody does that. And so it just depends. Okay, that's my point. And so even if you have people who are not your kids, that you want to be the beneficiaries, that's what I'm talking about. People all worry about the leftovers, assuming that this is the point, assuming there'll be leftovers. Bad assumption, and not a bad assumption because you went to the casino every night and all the rest of the stuff. Bad assumption because long-term care, and you've heard me say this before, I know it. I'm sorry to be a broken record. Some people would say I'm consistent. Other people would say, "Oh, you're a broken record." Anyway, here's a question for you. When I say broken record, you guys understand what I'm talking about, right? A record that skips and replays the same line over and over again. All right. How many of your kids, especially how many of your grandkids would have any clue what that meant? Huh? CDs don't work that way. MP3s, MP4s, whatever the heck it is they're doing, the downloadable, the streams, they don't work that way anymore. How about that? You want to feel old? Ask a kid what broken record means. Anyway, point is that if you wind up in long-term care, you're going broke. That's the way it is. And you didn't mean to go broke, and you didn't want to go broke, and you worked all your life not to go broke, but it doesn't matter. Because when you get whacked or your spouse gets whacked, or your significant other gets whacked, or your bank account gets whacked, or whoever gets whacked with a $7,000 to $9,000 bill per month for assisted living, then all the little extras, like the Dolphin mattress, like the pressure socks, like the pens, like the toothpaste, okay, Now you're talking another extra 1,000 or 2, perhaps, maybe more. All right. Or if you're talking about skilled nursing, you're talking $12,000 to $15,000 a month, right? Who's going to pay for that? The answer is you are, until you're broke. And then who's going to pay for it? And the answer is you are, from Medicaid, because you're the one who's been paying into Medicaid for all these years. Am I wrong about that? You know I'm not. So that's how it gets paid for. But you have to be broke first, which strikes me as profoundly unfair to the people who work and save and paid in. Do you see? Hey? You already paid for Social Security. Why should you pay again with your life savings? You already paid for Medicare, right? And yeah, I know you got to keep paying. You pay that premium, but an awful lot of that is supported by your taxpayer dollars, which you already paid for. Why should you have to pay again? Doesn't seem to me you should. But Medicaid's different. Medicaid, we're going to, as I've said before, we're going to strip you naked and kick you in the ass on the way out the door because we can. If you ever wonder what the government would do to you if they could get away with it, if you weren't still voting for another 20 years, all right? If you want to know very easy to compare. Look at Medicare versus Medicaid, right? Look at what they charge. Look at the way they handle the fact that you need a hip, a bypass, or whatever, right? That's one way they handle it. Look at the way they handle long-term care. Very different situation. Very different. Right? And the difference is, in one case, in Medicare, when you start Medicare, you got another 20, 30 years of voting. With Medicaid, you got 3 years to the grave, right? You're not going to be voting. So they can get away with it with Medicaid. They can't get away with it with Medicare. That's the difference. In my humble, I don't want to call it a humble opinion, but in my opinion, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Right? Who doubts it? I mean, what, you think the government is what? Your uncle? Not hardly. Now the question is, how do we make sure that the people who did work and save and do all the good things, how do we make sure that you, right, don't go broke? That's the question. And the answer is, what's the answer? It's like anything else in life. It's like anything else that you wanted to do that was worth doing. Right? It's like anything else. You got to plan ahead. You got to plan your work and work your plan. That's what you got to do. All right. And it's not that hard. And we're making great strides in making it a lot less expensive. Now, for the longest time, well, from the start, we've been working on the assumption that one-on-one is the best. And for many, many people, it is. It remains that way. Right? People like the one-on-one contact, okay? But the problem with the one-on-one is the same problem they have with the airlines have with first class, okay? You can only do so much of it. There's only so much room to do that. You get a lot of people want to go to Florida, right? There are a lot of people want to accomplish the goal. A lot of people want to go to Florida, all right? Well, you can do it you can put so many people in the first class, right? And charge them out the wazoo to do it because that's what it costs. You know, you don't get all that attention and big seats and blah, blah, blah. You don't get all that for free. I mean, that costs. Or you can do what I do, fly Allegiant, right? Point to point, same safety record, same, your molecules, right? Your protoplasm winds up in Florida. And that was the point of it. I mean, wasn't that the point of it? I think it was, right? But at a fraction of the cost. So my thought was, well, and actually it wasn't my thought. I stole it from a buddy of mine who said, hey, try this. Don't you wish you came up with all the good ideas, all the ideas that you thought were good ideas that you came up with? I know I do. Oh, but it ain't true. So anyway, so you got to live with that. Anyway, long story short, so that's what I'm going to talk about in the second segment is how do we deliver 100%? How do we deliver everything, right? But do it in such a way that regular folks aren't losing their houses anymore. Regular folks can keep the cottage. Regular folks don't have to go through their life savings, right? And through financial hardship right now to make that all happen. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Good morning, and welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier. That's John, Paul, George, and Ringo, of course. You remember that song from back in the day. Good morning. Anyway, talking about long-term care and asking you to give us a call, 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. If you have a question, comment, or concern about estate planning, elder law, real estate, or business law. You know, if you're wondering, hey, what's going on with that Camp Lejeune stuff with the Marines drinking the what was it, dry cleaning fluid that they put in the water there. Whoopsies. Whoops, sorry about that. Or how about the employee retention tax credit, huh? IRS just came out last week with another thing saying, oh, yeah, it's legit. See, here's the thing with the IRS. They can't deny that the law is there. Okay, they can't do that because it is there. You know, it's a law. It got passed by Congress. It is hugely, hugely beneficial to many, many more businesses who kept their employees on during the COVID. Okay, you kept your employees. You didn't lose your head. You know, right? You maybe lost your pocketbook, lost your savings because you kept people employed, even though governmental orders shut you down fully or partially, right? So, but you kept going. You kept soldiering on, right? That was the point of the ERTC. And now, all right, because you can through 2025, through the first part of 2025 anyway, you can still go back and claim it. You can still go back, even if you didn't get it before, even if you got PPP, all the things your CPA told you are probably not true. Sorry, right? Or maybe they are true. They're just not complete. That's the other thing. They're not wrong. They're just not complete. Anyway, long story short, IRS just came out with another thing saying, oh, you know, yeah, it's legit. Yeah, because they can't not say it's legit. But then they're like, oh, but there's bad people out there encouraging you to get the ERTC. That's what they're saying. And it's like, okay. And the fact of the matter is, I have to be, you know, just to be not omitting stuff myself. We have seen, you know, quite a bit of overreach on cases. We have seen, people not doing it correctly, my opinion, not correctly. People who, some people do it for themselves. You see that. More often you see folks who are supposed to be doing this stuff, and I think overreach is probably the best way to describe it, or lack of documentation and stuff. I mean, this is the stories that I'm hearing, that people don't meet with you, that they don't really go through, that they don't have all the necessary stuff in order to claim the credit. Okay, that's a problem, right? You know, and it's true of all the stuff that we do here. Okay, you know, I'm a lawyer, been a lawyer for a long time. Well, since 82, right? So that's what, 42 years. That's a long time. All right, that's most of the time I've been hanging around this planet. That that God has had the good grace to allow me to breathe the air and smell the roses. That's a scary thought, ain't it? Most of your life you've been an attorney. Yikes. Anyway, the point is, whether it was in the military or you know, my first job right out of, well, clerk for a judge first, but then, you know, my first real job was in the military, and trying to get bad guys off on technicalities. I mean, that's really what it was. It was appellate defense. All right, so guys get convicted by court-martial, and your job is to go in there and figure out, did the government do it incorrectly? And if they did do it incorrectly, if they cut corners, if they didn't, if they were not meticulous, okay, if they didn't do it correctly, right, then go in and find out what the errors were and, you know, get relief. That was the job. And I did that for a couple of years before they moved me over to the Pentagon, you know, and I wound up over there doing some other stuff. Point being, the point is that I guess my whole career has been reading the law and figuring out what the heck it means. Right? We say, oh, 2 law degrees, one from Georgetown University. Well, that was a Master of Laws degree in taxation. What do you think tax is? Tax is reading the law and figuring out what the heck it means, and then complying with the law. You see? You've always got to comply with the law, and some people just skip over that part. It drives me nuts. It's like, oh, well, I should be able to do this. Well, no, you shouldn't be able to do that unless the law says you can do that. And if the law says you can do that, well, fine. We'll drive a truck through that one, right? But the law's got to say it, right? And then people are like, well, is it really right to get someone off of a conviction when, the law's in their favor, but, we know they're a bad guy. Well, the question is, how the hell do you know they're a bad guy, right? I mean, look at what's going on in Washington right now with all the videotape that just came out, that the United States government was honor bound, legally bound, Supreme Court decision bound to turn over, and they didn't. And so you got a bunch of people pleading guilty to stuff that if they knew that they knew about the contrary evidence, they never would have done it, right? That's why it's important to follow the law so that everybody gets a fair shake. Remember, government of laws, not men. By men, they meant people, right? That's the idea. It's not enough that you have a feeling about stuff. And it's true with this tax credit stuff. And it's true with the Medicaid stuff. It's true with all of it. You got to comply. They made the rules. Well, we don't get to make the rules indirectly, I guess, representative democracy and all that. Republican form of democracy. Fine. Okay, fine. Right? We make the rules in that sense, but they say what you're supposed to do. They lay out the hoops you got to jump through. So jump through the freaking hoops. Because guess what? You get a Scooby snack if you do. And in with the ERTC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit, that can be worth hundreds of thousands. I've seen it over $1 million, right? For keeping people employed. Right? They didn't get it for nothing. They got it because they kept people employed during the COVID. And same way with taxes, same way with all of this stuff. Right? You gotta follow the rules. It's the only way there's any integrity. Right? It's just as simple as that. Right? So anyway, what I'm saying, I didn't get to what we're doing now for you, but I'll get to it in the next segment. It's a new model. And it's been working so far. So far, so good. And I'll explain it next time around. Okay? In the meantime, got a call? Got a question? 774-2424. Area code 616-774-2424. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Hello, and welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Of course, this is the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. Get in on the conversation, or if you want to. Otherwise, it's not a conversation, it's just me yakking at you. But anyway, that's all right. I can deal with it. Anyway, if you give us a call, 616-774-2424, then you can get it. Get your question, comment, or concern on the air. I understand that I'm probably talking to myself, my producer and board operator exclusively because it is first day of daylight savings time. Ain't that wonderful? But that's all right. It's like we never stop. We just keep going. So 616-774-2424. That's the number to call, 616-774-2424. Whether you're on Wood or KZO or wherever, 616-774-2424. Give us a shout. We'll get you on the air. You can also drop me an email, david@davidcarrierlaw.com, or go to davidcarrierlaw.com, and you can leave us a message on the new and improved website. I'm told it's new and improved. Who the heck knows? Anyway, what we're talking about is, given that you can't get if you go into dealing with the law, right, with a light heart, a spring in your step, and good feelings, right? So your encounter with the law is oh, it'll be fine, right? If that's your attitude, you're gonna get hit. You're gonna get. You ever see the a cartoon, where the guy gets run over by one of those steamrollers with the big roller thing, and they get flattened? That's you, okay? Because the law ain't fooling around, right? The law is what puts people in jail. The law is what takes your money away from you, right? The law is what keeps you in solitary confinement until they decide to get around to charging you with bogus stuff. And because they've got buildings with iron bars on the outside, right, and all the rest of this stuff, you could have your molecules, your protoplasm, wind up behind them, right? That's what the law is. Get it? Okay, it ain't. It's like I forget who did the song, but this ain't no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around. Right? You do your best to be a good person and to work hard and to go to church on Sundays and do all the rest of the good things. I understand that. Okay? And you think that gives you some immunity. Ha ha ha. No, it doesn't. And so as a consequence, what most people do is they just stay as far away from it, from the law, as they possibly can, which, yeah, that's not a bad strategy. That's a good strategy most of the time. But in some areas, like estate planning, like these tax credits, if you're going to run a business, right? Well, what that means is now you're going to go broke when you shouldn't be, or you're not going to get the benefits that you should get. And one of the amazing things to me is seeing business owners, when you give them a tax strategy, and you see lawyers doing this too, and you say, look, here's what the law says, here's what the courts have decided, and they're like, oh, I don't wanna, because they're so freaking afraid of the IRS. Well, a healthy respect for the fact that those people can put you in jail. They decide you did it wrong and prove it, right? A healthy respect is just natural, right? That's just common sense. Don't cheat on your taxes. On the other hand, when they tell you this is okay to do and you don't do it, think about how many hours it took you to earn that money so you could pay it over. And now they're telling you, oh, yeah, you don't have to. If you document it like this, if you perform like that, and there's millions of examples, or this ERTC stuff, right? Did you keep your people employed? Yes, I did. Can you prove what the payroll was? Yes, I can. Was your business down by 20% or 50%, depending on the year and the quarter? Yes, it was. All right, well, then you're entitled to X amount of dollars. You say, ooh, I don't want it. Keep it. You guys know what to do with my money better than I do. Ooh, yeah. Seriously? Or, and this is the other test with the ERTC, or did you keep people employed? Yes, I did. Here's my payroll. Here's my payroll records. Here's the proof. Did you take PPP? Yes, I did. What'd you spend it on? I spent some of it on payroll. Okay, well, you can't claim both. That's fine. All right. And let's document the heck out of that one. Okay, here's the payroll. Here's the PPP. Here's the loan. Here's the forgiveness documentation that you did. Let's follow the rules. 100% follow the rules. It's all about following the rules. Okay? Right? But, you went from a business with, 10 stools at the at the chocolate shop, right? 10 stools. Well, now you can only have 2.5. All right, we're going to cut you by 75%, and then 50%, whatever. Okay? So where you used to do 10 tables of business in your restaurant, now you can't. Where you used to have a 10-minute oil change, now you got a 2-hour oil change, whatever. Are you with me on this? See, this is the key. Did you follow the rules? If you follow the rules, and this is how we do it, because we're doing a lot of these cases now. a lot of these ERTC cases, and the thing is, once you dig into it, right, and you get past people's reluctance, because nobody can believe that the government is actually giving them any money. Nobody can believe, right, that they were serious with that ERTC thing, right? That's very hard to believe, which I understand. It's hard to believe. Doesn't mean it isn't true. It just means it's hard to believe it's true. But it's like Medicaid. It's like the rest of it. You mean I don't have to go broke? You mean I can get care for my loved ones and I don't have to sell the cottage? Yeah, that's true. It is true. We've only done that thousands of times. Also, we've done thousands of these ERTC cases. We've done thousands of Medicaid cases. Okay, you comply with the rules, right, and you get the benefit. That is how it works. I understand that most people don't know how to comply with the rules. I get it. That doesn't mean that you cannot. All it means is you got to do it right. You got to focus. You got to drive on through, right? You got to document the heck out of the thing so that if they ever decide, ooh, what about this? Because we saw some people who were doing it wrong. And then you can come back at them and say, yeah, I get that there are people doing it wrong. Why the hell does the fact that, oh, yeah, there are people doing it wrong. Okay, let's imagine I did it right. Let's imagine I did it correctly. Oh, well, that's a different story, isn't it? Well, yeah, it is. Well, can you prove you did it correctly? Here's the documentation. Here's the sworn statement. Here are copies of the orders. Here's a copy of this. Here's a copy of that. Here, why don't I give you some more information? Why don't I give you some more documentation? How about that? And this is true with the Medicaid cases. I mean, nowadays, get this with the Medicaid. I got this question the other day. Is it easier or is it more difficult? It's more difficult now than it ever has been. Because why? Well, now they're doing 5-year audits. Every once in a while, you get a 5-year audit. Now it's almost routine. Not every case. I'm not saying every case, but it's like, really? Another 5-year audit? And then they're making stuff up. It's one thing to comply with what the rules that are written down. It's another thing to try to figure out, whether or not. And this is the key, right? If a government official tells you you can't do that, tells you, right, you can't do that, what do you say? Oh, I guess I can't do that. Naturally, it was a government official told me I can't do it. I guess they know what they're talking about. You know what? A lot of times they have no idea what they're talking about. They're making it up as they go along. You see? And if you know what the rules really are, and you point it out to them, you say, hey, you said I had to do this. The rules don't say anything about that. In fact, the rules tell me this is what I got to do. And you give them a copy of the rules, 9 times out of 10, they agree with you. Okay? But that's why we spend all day reading the rules. So we know what the rules are. Right? Our job is to know the rules better than the referee knows the rules. Right? Because we're the ones playing the game. We're the ones who are trying to score the points. We're the ones who are trying not to go broke. Right? We're the ones who are trying to get every advantage for our clients that we can. That's the deal. You're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show, the show where the bumper music is almost always better than the show itself. Again, hard to admit, easy to observe. There you go. Anyway, welcome to Daylight Savings Time today. So we're talking about how do we do planning in such a way, how do we deliver planning in such a way that you get the benefit without the risk, okay? How do we do it and lower the cost? That's the problem. See, whether we're talking tax work or Medicaid or estate planning or any of this stuff, the key is how do you got to comply with the rules, and the rules are not easy to comply with. I'm not trying to soft pedal this stuff, okay? What I am saying is you're being duped, scammed. Well, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So when people say, "Oh, just download this. Oh, this works fine." Man, oh man. You ever go ice skating on a pond where the ice was dark? Right? You know what that means? It means it's thin ice. And I'm not saying, speaking as one who used to play hockey on the pond, I'm not saying you can't get away with it. All right. But every once in a while, little Timmy goes missing because he went out skating and he goes through the ice. Right. That happens. Right. I mean, it does. So I just don't get it. I mean, why would you do that? Right? Why would you play fast and loose when you don't have to? Right? I mean, why not respect what's going on there? Okay. So that's the issue, right? In my view. It's like what's going, we used to, and we used to do crazy things. I mean, we used to, when in the springtime when the ice would melt, and so you'd get open water around, between the shore and the ice, you get open water there, and you have to be careful not to shoot the puck in that direction because then it would fall in the water and game over, right? But there it is. But we would run and jump onto the, but because it was still plenty thick in the middle, you could still skate, but not by the edges because it was getting all melty there. So okay, so I understand the attraction of, don't get me wrong, I understand the attraction of doing it that way, and it works, and you don't go near the dark stuff out in the middle of the pond. You stay where the ice is still nice and thick. That's what you do. Okay. Understood. I get that. On the other hand, when you're talking about your life savings, when you're talking about what you've accumulated in order to have a secure retirement for yourself, for your loved ones, for your spouse, if you got one, right? When you're talking about that, this is not the time to take a running leap onto the ice. And of course, it was more fun coming off, because you get a good head of steam skating. You get skating real fast, and then when you get to the edge, you leap onto the bank. It's amazing any of us survived to adulthood, isn't it? Anyway, long story short, that's no way to treat your life savings. All right, you can get by with it when you're a kid because you're a kid and God looks out for you. But now you're older, supposedly wiser. And so what we've done is say, look, we're not giving up. We can't give up on being meticulous. We can't give up on the level of care that it takes to get this done. And so the question then becomes, how do we make it more available? How do we cut the cost of doing it without giving up on any of the technical expertise, the technical follow through, any of that? Okay. How do we deliver that? And I'll tell you, I had given up on that idea. I can't do it. I got to do it this way in order to deliver the results. Otherwise, I can't deliver the results. Until a friend of mine said, hey, you do the workshop with a bunch of people. Why don't we figure out the other things we can do in a workshop setting, right? Well, you don't need to sign one-on-one. You could have 5 people signing at the same time. You could have 10 people signing at the same time. Oh yeah, you could, couldn't you? And you know what? You could have 5 or 10 people when you're talking about distribution plan. Now there's still a lot of one-on-one time. You can't eliminate that, but there are a lot of things that you can do in a group setting, and that's what we're doing now. This is how we cut the cost by 2/3, half to 2/3. Just depends on what it is you want to do, right? So we cut it by 2/3. We cut it by half, 50%. And now, we're being kind of overwhelmed. It's been very, very well accepted. People get it that we're doing the same work. See, and it's the same idea with, you want to fly to Florida, private jet is $59,000. I know this because a buddy of mine flies private. He tells me that's what it costs. Round trip to Grand Rapids to Miami, $59,000. Okay. I bet you can get Allegiant or Frontier for $59 round trip. Now, you don't get to take any bags with you. Those are extra. You don't get any peanuts. Those are extra. You don't get you get flat Coke. All the extras are extra. But wasn't the idea to get to Florida 100% safely every single time? Because the safety records are the same. In fact, the on-time record is even better with some of these other companies. And we can do it more quickly. It's a 6 weeks is our goal. 6 weeks from you say go, 6 weeks later, you're done. Now, there's going to be some this and that. People get different properties and more questions and more complex matters and all the rest of it. Okay, fine. Those are going to be extra. Now, it's still going to be a fraction of what it would cost to do it the traditional way. It's going to be much, much less expensive, right? But you're not paying for somebody else's complexity. And the thing is, with the fixed fee that we've always done, right? I didn't know who was complex and who wasn't. It was just like, look, this is what it is, and whatever comes, we'll handle it. Well, okay, now we're doing it a la carte. And if you've got everyone's like, oh, I got a simple case. Okay, well, if you really do, well, there it is. It's half off. It's 2/3 off compared to what you would otherwise pay. That's a lot less expensive. Yeah, it really is. But at the same time, this is the important thing. Same time, you're getting everything everybody else gets, right? It's just a new way of delivering that service, right? Remember, on Allegiant Airlines, the seats don't go back. But that's okay. I'll put up with seats that don't go back. You only get to take a a fanny pack with you, unless you want to pay extra. Well, okay, right? But I'm still going to Florida, aren't I? Yep. Still going to see the mouse, right? Yep. We'll get you there 100% of the time. It's just that it's a different way of delivering the service. It's a different way to for you to pay, and it's a lot less expensive. And that's how we're doing it. It's not I hope I'm making the point. You can't cut corners on this stuff. All right? You can't take an online course and all of a sudden get it. You can't do that. But what you can do now, and come to a workshop and you'll see. Now what we can do is deliver the same level of professional expertise, the same results, but because we're doing it in a different manner, now it's a lot less expensive than it used to be. And like I say, we've had very, very good results with it so far. People very accepting of it. Not everybody. Some people still want to do the one-on-one, which is, God bless you, wonderful. That'll be the all the extras, all the but it's the same technical result. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and you have found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. So give us a call, why don't you? What could it hurt, huh? And no, it's not 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. That's right, because we sprang forward with that daylight savings time. Ain't that a wonderful thing? Rob you of an hour of your sleep. But anyway, I guess it's better for somebody somehow. So why not? Anyway, 616-774-2424. That's the number to call, 616-774-2424. And we'll get your question, comment, or concern on the air. You can also drop me an email, david@davidcarrierlaw.com. And if you'd like, go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com. And that would be another way to make this thing happen. In the last hour, and I'm recapping it because we didn't have anybody listening for the last hour because it was daylight savings spring forward time. Anyway, just to recap real briefly, I mean, it took an hour to say this, but I can do it. I bet you I can do it more quickly. Number one, legal stuff is what puts you in jail, takes your stuff away from you, or, if you do it correctly, or can actually leave you with more stuff, okay? Can get stuff for you. The way that most people do their taxes, very defensive. People very defensive about it. They don't take the deductions that they could or should, right? They're too concerned. Oh, what if? And you want to play inside the lines. I'm not saying you don't, but the fact of the matter is when you do it correctly, there are all kinds of things that are available for you that people do not take advantage of. I do it myself. I mean, when you have a deduction, it's like, yeah, that's legit. And you're like, well, I don't know. If I ever get audited, I want something in my pocket. I want to have an additional, which is like, I can't tell you how brain dead stupid it is when you fully documented your entitlement to something and then you pass on it. I get that it's human. I do it as I said, I've done it. I try not to. I do. I try to get it right, which is what we do for our clients. Okay. So when you do a Medicaid application, you're either going broke or we're getting you on the Medicaid. That's the choice. That's the reality. That's a reality for most people, 70%, according to the government. 70% of folks will need 3 years of skilled care, whether that's at-home care, assisted living, skilled nursing, whatever, from some source. The government also says that three quarters, 74 point something percent, whatever it is paid for by the government. Okay. Well, okay, 74% of skilled care, of long-term care that people need is paid for through a government program. Well, what about the other 24%? That's all them stupid people going broke. I say stupid people, but that's all the people going broke, right? Do you have to go broke? No, you don't. How do I know this? Because I've been at it for 30 plus years and seen it thousands of times, right? If you plan correctly, you don't have to go broke. Do you want to go broke? I don't know. If you do, well, you don't need me. What the heck? But if you don't want to go broke, it's not as easy as, oh, I don't want to go broke. I'll just get whatever. No, you got to document it. You got to do it correctly. Okay? Compliance, that's the key. Frustrates the hell out of them, too. Ooh, you can't do that. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, no, you can't. You got to know the law better than they do, and then you got to document the thing, but then it's like, glory, hallelujah. You can do amazing things if you're willing to comply. And this is true whether it's Medicaid, the employee retention tax credit. The IRS just came out with this thing saying, yeah, because they have to admit that it's legit, because it is legit. There's no question about it. It's totally legitimate. All right. It's a law passed by Congress. IRS may not like it, but that's not IRS's call. It's Congress's call. And they decided to do it. And so now we've got it. And what they're putting out is, oh, look out for these bad actors who are telling you you're entitled to it when you're not. Well, okay. But that's true of any tax provision. Almost any tax provision. If you lie, if you commit fraud, that's bad. Don't do that. Okay. But what if you actually kept people employed during the pandemic? What if you did everything that they wanted you to do, that they told you to do? What if you did? Oh, no. I don't want 300,000. I don't want 200,000. I don't want $1 million. I don't want $50,000. Just because I kept my people employed during the pandemic. Well, yeah, that's what the law's about. That's what it's about. Can you document it? If you did document it and you did keep people employed and you did all the things they wanted you to do, and you say, no, government knows what to do with my money better than I do. No, I should go broke in the nursing home so that my spouse can be poor. That's a good idea. That's what I worked 40 years for. So my spouse can go broke. I can go broke. We lose the cottage and that'll be fine. I'm good with that. Because, everybody else who gets the government programs that I pay for, right? Well, they deserve it more than I do. I don't, I just wanted the ability to work for other people. That's what I wanted. Okay. That's really your attitude. Go for it. Who am I to say no? That's wonderful. I'm sure there's somebody who appreciates that, but it ain't me. If the government says, here's how much money we're going to take away from you, and if you do these things, then here's the cookie. Now, we're not going to give you all your money back, but here's a cookie. I like cookies. I did what they wanted me to do. I've complied. I can document it. These are all necessary steps, of course. Right? You got to comply. You got to document. You got to do it correctly. Not, oh, my Uncle Charlie heard something from somebody in in a church, and it was and I'm sure this will work. I swear to God, I've been getting a flood of these where people put other people, family members, they're all putting each other on deeds and stuff, right? In our more rural areas, this happens. And we're reaching out into some of those areas now. And it's like 20 years ago in Grand Rapids, right? 20 years ago in Grand Rapids, everybody was doing these joint deeds 30 years ago. You saw them all over the place. Terrible stuff. But it was because they heard somebody do it and it must have worked. And now we're seeing it all over again. And it's like, I knew that the farmers in our area were doing this, but I didn't know that it was still so prevalent. And when you've got to unwind that stuff, all the stuff that people have done, and now you're into probate, and one of the kids died, so now I'm dealing with their kid, the grandkids, and this one's a drug addict and doesn't, wants more money, and this one wants something else, and da 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 da. It's just terrible. Whereas if you put this thing together correctly, then it wouldn't be an issue at all. And but that's what you've got to do. Now the question is, how do we deliver those services without breaking the bank? How do we deliver those services in a way that is accessible to most people? And we've managed to cut our fee either by 50% or 2/3, over 60% off, right? But the way you do it is, in order to make this work, is we're doing group meetings. It's like flying to Florida on one of those airlines where the seats don't go back. You get on an airline, hit the button, let the seat go back. No. The seats don't go back. You got to sit up straight. Well, what do you care? It's a 2.5-hour flight. You only paid $59 and you're going to see the mouse. You're going to be in Orlando. And it's got a 100% safety record. It really, really works because they do. The jet engines work. The pressurization system in the cabin works. The seatbelts work. The seats aren't the most comfortable, but guess what? They're not going to give you arthritis, probably, unless you use them too often, right? That's what we're doing. It's a new model. Instead of very much a one-on-one process throughout, we eliminate most of the one-on-one, so we do only the parts where we have to do one-on-one in order to accomplish the goal, right? But the rest is group meetings. And as a consequence, we're able to radically reduce what it costs to get the job done. This is what we're introducing at our new workshops, the ones that we're doing now. You hear them on the radio. We talk about, come to the workshop, blah, blah. Well, that's the deal. That's what we're doing. We're not cutting corners on what needs to get done. We're not cutting corners on compliance. We're not doing less sophisticated programs. We're doing everything we always did, but now we're doing it in a different way that brings the cost down, that makes it more available. Any questions about that? Give us a call, 616-774-2424 right now, and we'll explain it to you one more time. Or go to the website, davidcarrierlaw.com. Sign up for a life plan workshop. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. We were talking about long-term care spending, and you may wonder, well, where does he come up with who says it's 75%? And so I wanted to get that for you. And it's from the Congressional Research Service, and these numbers for 2020. Now, that was the very beginning of the pandemic. Okay, so it's gone up since then. And but back then, it was almost $500 billion was spent. $500 billion, $500 billion. That's a lot of money, I think. Don't you think that's a lot of money? I do. Anyway, that was for the whole kit and caboodle for long-term care services and supports is what they said. And of that, 72.3% were $343.5 billion came from public funds, whether it was Medicaid, Medicare. And here's the thing, there was 6.3% of it was COVID. Okay, this was in 2020. Of course, that ramped up unbelievably. But that's where it came from. Congressional Research Service, private was $131 billion, right? That was all you folks spending down till you were broke. And then once you got there, then the government would kick in. So in case you were wondering, that's where we got the numbers, Congressional Research Service. What else we got that's interesting? Notice how I assumed that you would find that interesting. Okay, well, here's some questions. Some of these we answered in writing in the weekly column, but why not? We'll take another swing at them on the air. Can my brother sell his house without giving myself and my family time to find another home? My brother inherited. See, this is why you say, well, of course, why not? But this is why it matters, because the brother inherited the childhood home from the mom who passed away last year, 2 years ago. But this guy had for 13 years was living in mom's house with his family. We all stayed here and took care of our aging and then ailing mother. Sprung on me that he's putting the house up for sale in 10 days. I am disabled with multiple sclerosis, have no income besides Social Security disability. So this is one of those cases where the disabled kid moves home, but mom has given the house to one of the other kids. Frequently, the reason that they give the house to the other kid is because the other kid says, oh, I'll take care of Tommy. Timmy, the kid who gets the house, says, oh, I'll take care of disabled Tommy. Don't worry about it. You should worry about it, because as soon as you're gone, Tommy's going to forget all about that. And Timmy's out in the street, or vice versa, however that works. Okay? So the idea of doubling up inheritances to one kid, assuming they're going to take care of the disabled kid, is very common and very wrong. Ill-advised. All right? I won't say stupid, but it is ill-advised because, even if the kid wants to take care of the disabled child, what if their own spouse has Alzheimer's? What if their own spouse gets in a car accident? What if, there's a million things that can go wrong with these programs, with these plans. And this is the thing about all this, by the garden fence, over the backyard fence, law stuff that we see, especially with these deeds. Oh my God. People write these deeds like, oh, and there's lawyers out there actually doing this also. It's mind-boggling. But the thing that drives you nuts about it is, it's not that it cannot work. It's not the case. It is not true that these things, it never ever works. No, it could work. It could work. It could work. But you have no reason for thinking it's going to work, okay? You're just whistling past a graveyard, right? You're just kind of hoping everything's going to work out. Well, that's a way to live life. Go ahead. If that's the way you want to do it, yeah, I'll roll the dice on my life savings. Sure, why not? What? Oh, well, my brother-in-law is very reliable, or, my aunt's sister's brother's cousin's friend who went to, so somebody at the Tasty Freeze said that, blah, 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 that deeds were the great thing. And so now you're doing these deeds. Because it saves you all that money, which is why now we're doing these as group meetings. And, and I admit it, I hadn't thought of it before. I wish I had. I've been doing this for years, but I didn't. Somebody else thought of it. But I'll tell you, as soon as a buddy of mine shared this with me, I was like, hey, let's implement that. Because it's a way to provide everything that you need so that you're not just rolling the dice. Are you with me on this? Right? You don't have to roll the dice. You can get to Florida. If you fly in one of those airlines, El Cheapo Airlines, right? They're still regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration, right? They're serviced by the same third-party service companies that do the big airlines, the name brands, right? You're going to make it to Florida. Will it be as comfortable? No. Will they be as nice to you? Well, we'll be as nice to you. Yeah, they'll be nice to you. Sure they will. Okay? But you won't get all the bells and whistles. You won't get a free bag of chips. Okay? There'll be things that you have to do on your own, but we'll be there. We'll coach you. We've got a whole program for doing this. Okay? But if we're going to do less, that you're going to do more, and we're doing it with a group. Okay? And that's mostly what the difference is. We're doing it in a group setting. Okay? So you're still getting all the service. You're still getting all the results, and that's the important part. but it's at a much lower cost. That's the key. And so when we look at something like this, where mom gave the house to one son to take care of the other son, and then the other son evicts the first one, the disabled child and his family, it's like, yeah, who's surprised by this? The answer is nobody. Nobody has any reason to be surprised by this because this is what happens. And then the question is, can he sell the house? Of course he can sell the house. Now he's got to evict you. That means he's got to give you a 30-day notice to quit. He can't just put your stuff on the driveway. Can't do that. Now you can sue him, right? He has to go through the eviction process, give you 30 days notice to quit, to get the heck out. He terminated your tenancy. Hit the bricks, pal. You're going out, right? That's his right. He owns the property, is what you told me. And then he's got to go through all the formalities. Now, do you want to go through that? Do you want to put your brother through that? I would say yes, right? Because that's how you're going to have the maximum time. But if you say, look, why don't you just evict me? Because then I got 30 days notice, and then you've got to schedule summary proceeding to actually get an order to put me on the street. That'll be another couple of weeks. Plus, I'm disabled. So there may be some additional something going on there. That may give me a little more delay, right? Or you can give me enough time to get the heck out of Dodge. How about that? You see? But if this had been done properly, mom would have left the house to MS, multiple sclerosis son, right? With the extra go to the other kid, right? I mean, there's so many ways that this could have been done without this. And now the brother's going to hate each other. The cousin's going to hate each other because that's just how it works once you get one family member suing somebody else. Terrible stuff. Didn't have to happen this way. Inviting you to a life plan workshop. These are the workshops we do every week, laying out the new way of doing things. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. We also, let's see, what do we got going on here? Oh, you can drop me an email. You knew that. Let's get to some more of the some more of the emails that we've got hanging around here. How about that? Yeah, I got one of these. They started writing it, but they didn't really finish it. What happens when the caregiver is the deceased nephew? I don't know. I guess you go looking for another one. Well, maybe it's a serious question, right? Maybe the caregiver died, and now the question is, and we've got some. It says in hospice, parenthetically. So what if the caregiver dies? Well, then you go to the next one in line, or if there isn't a next one in line, then you have to go to probate court and do a guardianship. So maybe it's a serious question. Yeah, really, I hadn't thought so. Can a guardian sell a property that has a ladybird deed when one of the parties has passed and the other has dementia? My parents, both 88, still living at home, created ladybird deed for me to inherit the home upon their death. My mother has severe dementia and my father is in poor health. In other words, neither one of them are actually dead yet. So, okay, little disconnect there. I have a sister whom I do not get along with. We should say with whom you do not get along, who's named as their healthcare power of attorney. Okay, well, that gives her no authority over the property. However, it would be all too common. I was going to say unusual, but it's all too common when people will do the healthcare power of attorney, because lots of times the doctor will have a form and then they fill out the form, or there are forms at the hospital. But the hospital forms don't include mental health powers, is what I've seen. So they wind up being not as valuable as you would think. Anyway, can she sell the home, primary residence, as a guardian if appointed as such? But you see, the guardianship is the one where they take care of the person, and they've got a healthcare power of attorney for that. So really, the healthcare power of attorney should be, if it's done correctly, should be sufficient. But what if? But let's treat it as if they said, well, what if we went to probate court? Well, then you could be guardian and conservator. Conservator is the one that deals with the property, and you would still need, in most jurisdictions, you would still need the court's permission to sell the real estate. Generally speaking, they won't let you sell. They won't let you deal with real estate. without a specific court order. 1 year ago, she took an attorney to their home and had my parents sign over the family farm to her. Ooh, evil sister. They don't have long-term care insurance, so if they go in a nursing home, paying for it will be an issue. No kidding. She told me that the look-back period for Medicaid is 3 years for a military veteran. No, it's 5. Unless you're in California, then it's 30 months for everybody. And 2 years for my mother. That makes no sense at all. It's 5 years. All right, 60 months. Except in California where it's 30 months. California. I have no doubt she would sell the home. Of course she'd sell the home if she had the authority, right? But if she doesn't sell the home, she said, hey, that's homestead, I'm not going to sell it, and the nursing home doesn't get paid, then what the nursing home is going to do is going to sue mom and dad, right? They're going to sue mom or dad, whoever's in long-term care. And by they, I mean the nursing home is going to sue. It won't be the state. See, the state doesn't care. The state says, hey, you don't qualify for Medicaid, we're out of here. All right, you guys deal with it. Don't, go argue amongst yourselves. All right, because you're not dealing with us. We're out. We're out. That's as simple as it goes. So she probably would sell the home if she could. Let's say she can't, because dad's still living there or something like this, and mom doesn't qualify. Right. Well, they're going to sue mom and dad. Mom and dad still have the house. But they might also go after the farm because they'll say, well, how come why didn't mom qualify for Medicaid? Well, because we gave away the farm. And now for the next 3 years, however long, depending on the value of the farm, mom will not qualify for the Medicaid. All right, that could happen. And then they'd sue sister. So yay. Except the sister, of course, is going to sell the house and pay the nursing home and keep the farm. Is there anything I can do if she attempts to go against their wishes? Well, the short answer is yes. I mean, if there is no financial power of attorney, there's no trust, there's nothing like that in place, you could go and seek to become conservator. You could lay out a few $1,000s and see if that could, see if you can get the conservatorship. Give it a try. Why not? All you have to do is risk your money. Will any debts need to be paid from the sale of their home after they pass? Well, yeah. Depends on how you set it up, of course. There are ways to set it up so that the answer is no. But generally speaking, the assets in the estate answer for the debts of the decedent, generally speaking. Different with certain kinds of trusts, different with insurance. With the ladybird deed, you can argue, okay? But the short answer is generally speaking, yes. So can the guardian sell the property with the ladybird deed? Now, ladybird deed is meaningless while mom or dad is still alive. Okay, so they ladybird deeded the house to you. That's irrelevant until they both passed, because that's when the transfer occurs, not before. All right, so far so good. Give us a call, 616-774-2424. Let's see if we can't get another one on. Done. How can I leave more money to someone I already have in my will if I prefer to do it myself? I have a person in my will, a beneficiary, right? Also known as a devisee, not an heir. Okay. Heirs are the people who you're related to. Devisees are the people you leave money to in your will. Beneficiaries are people you leave money to in your trust. People screw them up all the time, but that's the way it's supposed to be anyway. So anyway, I have a person in my will that I want to add the amount of money I'm leaving him. I would like to accomplish it without using my attorney who redid my will a year ago. That's a huge mistake. Oh, what could it cost? $500? $100? $150? You want to leave money to somebody, redo the will. I'm not a big fan. I tell you, I am not a big fan of codicils to wills. Because people do they say, oh, I'm going to leave you $100, and they do a codicil, which has all the same, what do you want to say, ministerial requirements. You still have to get it notarized and witnessed and all the rest to be self-proving. You have to have all the same formalities. That's what I meant. All those formalities are the same for a codicil, which is an amendment basically to a will. All right. They're all the same. The formalities are the same. Um, so you're already, if you're going to get a codicil done, it's almost going to be the same as a will. The cost shouldn't be that much different, that much hassle. But what you shouldn't do, please, why? It's like, oh, I want to do it myself. I don't want to go back to that lawyer. Well, if you don't like the lawyer, find another one. Find someone that you're compatible with. Simpatico, right? But don't try to cheap out and save a few bucks by doing it yourself. People do this stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm going to save $200, $500, whatever it is. You're going to save some money now by writing it out on a napkin. Okay, fine. You wanna, you're going to lose 10 times as much, 20 times as much when this thing winds up in probate court and everybody's fighting over it for the next 3 years. Okay. That's when the bitterness of the low price, what would they say? The bitterness of poor quality extends far beyond the sweetness of a low price, or something like that. I don't know. But you're all excited, but you get the low price, and then it's crap, right? And then it winds up costing you so much more. Don't do it. You don't have to. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. We just got a little bit of time here. We're going to knock out a few more of these questions. I was part of a lawsuit in 2000. The lady won by default. She now, after 2025, wants to have a receiver, 2025, 23, I think, have a receiver take properties, have a receiver take the properties that have been deeded to my children for over 4 years. Well, here's the thing. If you lose a lawsuit, and let's assume that the judgments are still valid. Let's assume that they didn't just age out, which happens. You've got a certain amount of time to enforce a judgment. If you don't enforce the judgment, then you're out of luck. So let's assume that this lady, this person who sued you back in the year 2000, re-registered the judgments, right? And only now finds out that you had deeded out these properties. Well, the answer is they're going to come after you first, because they already did. But then you knew that you had this judgment out there, right? I'm guessing. And it was against you. That you had this judgment, and then you went ahead and deeded out these properties to the kids anyway. So the law, the rule, the doctrine of fraudulent transfer means that if you owe money to somebody and you try to skate on that by deeding property to somebody else, which is what it sounds like, frankly, it sounds like it's exactly what you did here, right? If that's what happens, then they can go after the people that you deeded the property to. All right. I mean, you don't get out of it that way. You can't just say, oh, I sold it to my kids for $1, and now therefore I don't have to pay you because I don't have it. Here, you can have the $1. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So can you still there's no question here, but I'm guessing that the question is, can they do that? Yeah, probably. Obviously, there's some things you want to look at. How do we protect our assets from each other's children? This is our second marriage. We both have children from previous marriages. We both have investments. Oh, come on, where'd it go? We both have investments as a couple. We are each other's beneficiaries. How do we protect our assets when the remaining spouse passes? Example, my assets should go to my children, his should go to his when the surviving spouse passes. Well, here's the thing. Nobody has a crystal ball. So will your kids get along? Will they get along with the surviving spouse? Do you always want to go scorched earth on these things? Okay. So when we've got a situation where we know that there's going to be problems, you talk to the couple, oh yeah, they hate each other and there's going to be real problems there. Okay. At that point, when that happens, what we will do, we call it stovepiping. And this is something you saw in the military, right? See, stovepiping is when somebody in the Army, Who knows what they do in the Air Force? Who knows? But everywhere else, in the Army and the Navy, at least, Marine Corps, there's this thing called a chain of command. So the private goes to the sergeant, goes to the platoon leader, who goes to the company commander, who goes to the battalion commander, who goes on up the chain. Okay. The idea is everybody has somebody that they report to, and it goes up, right? And there's links in the chain. That's the chain of command. Okay, everybody gets that, except in the Air Force, where I don't know who knows what goes on in the Air Force. Anyway, long story short, sometimes the upper echelon of command, whether it's the colonel or the general or whoever, head of the department, wants to know what's going on with a lower level operating group. Let's put it that way. Okay. Task force or something like this. So that going through the chain of command would be a waste of time. So you have what we call a stovepipe that goes directly from the team leader, who might be a lieutenant or captain, maybe, goes right to the general. Okay, stovepiping. So we do the same kind of thing here when we're planning for a couple, where we know that if we work through the family, we're going to have all kind of hassle, right? So we stovepipe each one's. So mom has a plan that goes directly to her kids. Dad has a plan that goes directly to his kids. His assets are kept in his stovepipe. Hers are in hers. All right. Well, he has them, but they stovepipe to the kid. Now, what you can do, and we usually do this, is you have a modification of that concept, which is whichever spouse dies first, we set aside a certain amount of money or property, maybe it's the homestead, for the benefit of the surviving spouse. So the surviving spouse is not bereft, okay? At the same time, it's not the surviving spouse's trust. It's the stovepiped trust, right? So dad dies, mom's the beneficiary, or the wife is the beneficiary of the husband's trust, right? We don't give her the property directly. And then you get into who's in charge of it, and do you do a corporate trustee? There's all kinds of issues there. But you see, the concept is that this is husband's property. It's going to be used temporarily for the support of the spouse, but it's going to his kids. Ditto on the other side. All right. But we don't do a joint trust. You don't do you do two trusts, two separate stovepiped distribution plans. That's how you handle that. Okay. So something like this. That's if you're going, all the way. There are other ways to do it where you could have joint trusts, and it says, okay, when one dies, the property's held for the benefit of the other. And then when they both die, then it goes out. The problem with that, though, is now you've got someone who's not one of your family members making these decisions, and you can wind up disinheriting your own kids, which is fine. Why not? You're there to support your spouse. Let's see. My parents are listed on a quitclaim deed as a grantee, and their names are written John D. and Jane D. Smith. When a married couple signs as one person using the last name once, isn't that showing joint tenancy? Going through hell with title company because both parents are deceased, saying they're tenants in common, even though clearly so. No. When you do it like this, when you list it like this, and you don't say joint tenants, you don't say husband and wife, you don't say tenants by the entirety, which are all things that you could have done if you used a freaking lawyer. All right. If you used a lawyer, if you hadn't tried to do it on the cheap, then you wouldn't have had this problem. Saying they're tenants in common, clearly shows them as one, and I'm the third joint tenant owner. Aha. You did this by yourselves, didn't you? So they're saying I have to go through probate, which costs a lot. No kidding. Months of my time. No kidding. When I know they never had anything separate in over 50 years they were married, and now it's a mess. Yeah. And you got nobody to blame. But like Michael Jackson said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror because you're the one who did this deed. An attorney would not usually have screwed it up like this. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, encouraging you to come to one of our new life plan workshops where the fees are half to 2/3 less than what we used to be doing. Just a new way of doing it. The old way is still available, but there is a new way. Looking forward to seeing you there.